Every time when I came back home from the reserve, it took time to kind of get back to my rhythm.
When you wear the uniform, you became a Superman.
Let's talk a little bit about the ceasefire.
We need to shoot, or we're not allowed to shoot.
Because if we finish it the way it is now, everything can happen again.
Israelis, we don't want to fight.
We're really seeing that it's not yet over. Every week we had hostages being released.
On one hand, we're very happy to see them back home. On the other hand,
Shalom and welcome to Voice of Judah podcast. My name is Sason and today I have my special guest, Iliya-two.
Shalom, guys.
And we're going to talk about many different important stuff that is happening currently in Israel. So let's briefly kind of speak about the last 2 months of what's happening in Israel, especially when we talk about military point of view, political point of view, as well as you know it really good. And I want to, of course, connect it to the scriptures and Bible and what is God is speaking. But Ilya, in the last few months, you've been in the army. You've been back to reserve. Can you kind of share a bit about that?
Yeah, so for the last, I think 2 months ago, I joined the reserves again. That was very fun, very different than the last time. Last time I've been in a tank unit and I've been fighting in the front line. This time I was more in the kind of backstage. I was in communication unit. And it was I don't know. It was kind of weird because it felt like you're still in reserve, still in war, but it's not that active. So it's the dangerous thing about that. It's when I went into Gaza and crossed the border, I was way more chilled. I kind of forgot that it's a war and the danger of that. So that was the challenge here. But otherwise, I feel that it's becoming just a genuine, I don't know if it's okay to say that, but genuine spend of time, not being any productive. And it's really stopping me from my home. It's stopping me from learning how to be a husband, #8 months married. It's stopping me from my ministry. It's stopping me from everything. So it's an interesting season.
Yeah, and I think, you're not the only one that is going through that. We have so many people, especially when we talk about reserves units. It's more complicated. When you're a soldier, it's a part of your life kind of, and that's your routine. But when you're going back to the army, back to reserves and back to the same thing, it really kind of messing everything around you. And we've been talking about that quite a lot, but people don't really realize what we're going through, and it's a quite a challenge. And I think there's a lot of believers as well that are in the army are in the same situation as we were both. And I remember every time when I came back home from the reserve, it took time to kind of get back to my rhythm. Right now I'm only 2 months off, almost 2 months, and I still kind of feel that only now I'm stepping slowly into it, and it's
it feels like addiction, bro.
I'm
just 2 months off.
And it's hard, and I have to be honest, I miss it a lot, being with the same friends. And in your case, it's kind of different because you've been changing now people and units, so it's kind of different. But when you're together for a long time, coming back home, it's really kind of, your heart is in mess, because in one side you love so much your brothers, and at the same time you have responsibility back home. So how do you deal with that?
That's a good question. I think there's two main problems, two main situations that we're facing. The first one is when you wear the uniform, you became a Superman, like a superhero. And everyone loves you, people paying for you in the gas station. It's fun. I don't know if it's okay, but it's kind of, for my pride, it's good. It's kind of, you feel seen. And then the second thing that we're facing is the fact that you don't have this level of adrenaline. Because when you are in reserves, when you are fighting, when you are in the military, you have a level of adrenaline that people don't understand it. You're risking your life, not show me the people who really risk their life daily. And we've been doing that daily. So, and then when you come back, you are without your uniform, you're not a superhero. And then you don't have this adrenaline. So everything is so slow down and so kind of chill. that's one of the reasons why I bought an ice bath, because I want to, I want to bring this adrenaline kind of back in the mornings somehow, and try to do something more in a good places. Do not go out and cycling the mountains like crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know who will do it.
I did it after first time coming back home. I said I need adrenaline, so I went to downhill. And man, that was adrenaline.
I bet, but that hurts.
Yeah.
And that's bad. Is not hurting, so try that.
That's a good point.
So that's one way of facing the adrenaline. But the other way of facing the being seen, the being superhero, it's when you just find your place. Like that's the hardest part. When you find your place, you find your support from your wife, you find your support from your youth, from anywhere. So what works for me, it's that my wife stands there for me, and she's like doing everything for me, and she allows me to be lazy when I want. I don't know, I want to be lazy. It's weird.
It's really weird.
I'm not lazy, you know me. I'm very hyperactive and stuff, but sometimes I just want to do nothing. And she allows me to do that, and she give me the support. But also on the other hand, she will say, "Hey, go wash the dishes," or "Hey, bring me
responsibility in the house,"
or "Bring me a cup of water." I'm like, "What the heck?
Leave me alone." You know what I've been going through.
But it's good because it's make you to work and do something. So that's also how I do that, how I deal that, and how I found my support in my closest people.
Well, it's important, I think, especially that it's not only few people, but it's a really big amount of people from Israel that are going through the same situations. I spoke to people that have kids home as well, and everyone is witnessing, and my wife can actually witness as well, that we're much more mad, kind of, we're getting ignited so easy. And I talked to my wife about that, and she said, you've been away from the house for so long that you're not used to have the same patience that you used to have. If my kids are starting to cry, it just get me nuts. And like when I was thinking, I said, like, I don't know why I'm like that, but like you said, when you're getting out of your rhythm and everything, and I think especially in my case, being all my life in church and being in the last few years at least in ministry, suddenly change everything and go to a different situation. It's complicated. It is. It's extremely complicated.
It is. And we can see it also if we look at the people here in Israel, like the majority. So we have my friend that I know from my unit. He ended his life with suicide. He couldn't take that. We know families from church or families from not from church, from our military, that they breaking up. Divorcing. It's a really tough season. It's a really challenging season because you're coming back home again, and we talked about that. And it's a situation that I think it will be very hard about the hostages coming back home. Because the hostages, that's only my personal what I think, but the hostages, when they coming back home, they remember their families in one stage, in one phase, being good family, being supportive. But after 502 days, it's the families changed, the people changed, the people are more ignite faster, and it's harder. So imagine them coming back to not healthy already families. So it's going to be hard, and that's what's happening to us. We're coming back. We've been out. I mean, I've never been out from my family, but we've been out from our families, and then we're coming back to different families that we don't know, and it's kind of start everything from the beginning and know each other. Where's the limits? What we're able to do, what we're not able to do. And also it's same thing from our wives. Like my wife need to learn me again,
of course,
and understand who am I and stuff like that. So it's going to be a real challenge, and that's the situation that we're facing right now.
And it's in scales of the country, everyone is going through that, and I think it's the next few years are going to be really challenging. We're going to see and witness more cases like that of divorce and unfortunately suicide as well. And I think that we as a reservists, we feel the the pain, and for us it's really something that is personal. So every time I hear these stories, it just breaks my heart every time. And like I feel that no one understand me except those ones that have been going through the same situation.
Yeah.
So like every time talking to you, I feel that we understand each other.
You feel heard.
Yeah, and like I feel that that's kind of the best treatment is just kind of talking and like pour out, because
Oh yeah, it's very important.
we've been in the same situation. I mean, in different places and different things, but we've been experiencing the war. And like I talked to you that during your service, you kind of been used to that. Not really, but in my
I've been
case,
in a combat unit.
you were in a combat unit, and with me it's different. That like in the reserves, I'm in combat unit, and it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
So I remember when me and you were cycling like in the city one of the day.
Yeah.
That was really helpful. Like when we
Yeah.
just kind of like opened up and said, hey, I'm not used to that, and it was really hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think it's something that we need people to pray as well, especially over these families, because once again, it's not only the husbands or the wives, but it's the whole family that have been
It's the whole country. Yeah.
It's the whole country, exactly.
The kids, everyone.
Yeah, and we remember, of course, those ones that have lost their lives as well during this time. And talking about that, let's talk a little bit about the ceasefire that is happening now in Gaza and up Lebanon. What do you think? How long is going to continue? What do you think?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know.
It's a good answer as well.
Yeah, I really don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
Because when I start to think about that, it's kind of mix my feelings, and I for sure feel that I'm losing my peace. And that's something that in this war I learned, that I want to fight for this peace. I will do everything. I'll literally get mad to be in peace, like I'll fight for this shalom, how we call it in Hebrew. Because when I'm thinking about the ceasefire, I'm thinking about something that I'm not finished. And it's make me like nervous and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And especially as someone in reserves, in combat, I bet you heard that too, your parents and friends, and they're like, so what? When is ending? What's going on? Like you, all of a sudden you became the official representative of IDF, and it's so heavy on my shoulders. So I'm like, Pastor Israel called me, your dad called me, and he's like, hey, so what's that? What's up? What's the situation in Gaza? I'm like, I don't know. He said, what do you mean you don't know? You're there. I said, yeah, but I don't care. I'm here. I'm doing the stuff, the commandments that they ask me to do, and that's it.
I'm the small part of it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
So I don't know how long it's gonna last. I know that it's kind of hard, and it's very dangerous. When the ceasefire started, I've been in Gaza. It's very hard because all of a sudden, all these civilians they're coming out, and they very like to check the boundaries.
Yeah.
So they will come closer, and then we need to shoot, or we're not allowed to shoot, because if we will shoot,
the ceasefire
will fall down,
Yeah.
and then the hostages will not be back, and then because of me, people will not have their families, So it's kind of hard. But on the other side, these guys can come and take my life. So on the scale, it's the hostages from my life, and I don't know. It's very hard to scale that.
Yeah, it's a hard question, and I think that's why we're talking about it, because we kind of want to understand the both perspective on this situation, because like in one hand, as you said, everyone are tired of the war as well. So everyone is always asking when it's going to be finished, and it feels like we're in a desperate situation that people prefer to stop it than to finish the goals. But from military perspective, like I've been there. I said, if that's the way we finish, it's a failure. There's no way we're gonna finish that way, or at least that's how I feel. And the ceasefire with Lebanon so far, it's working somehow, even though we see that not everything is the way it was supposed to be. Today, actually, it's yesterday night, the last reservists went out of Lebanon, except 5 points that they continue to stay in. So it's a really important points. And we got permission from the U.S. government, and they support that it's a big story here as well. That we can talk for a long time how much these elections in the state is impacting Israel, and not only, it's actually impacting the whole world.
Yeah, that give us a new strategy.
It is, and like in some way, most of reservists that I talked, and the way I feel, that we are actually hoping that the war will continue, not because we want the war, but because we wanted to have the goals that we need. Because if we finish it the way it is now, it means that in few years everything can happen again.
Yeah, I think the hardest part is, we live here for what? I live here for 26 years. We heard about these operations, right?
Mm-hmm.
We not call it wars, we call it operation.
Military operations.
Then we heard about the wars, and it's always happening and then stopping in kind of ceasefire thing, and then it's come again. And it feels like we're dumb. I'm sorry to say that, but it's again and again. And Israelis, we don't want to fight. We don't like fights. We're not built to fight.
Yeah.
We hate it. We hate it with all our lives, and that's why people are. It's hard for them to continue with life because they feel really guilty. But on the other hand, we can't. It's each time it's gonna be back and back and back and back. So it feels useless, like
it feels useless, but at the same time, it feels that we have this moment that we actually can change things, and we can maybe finally to really deal with the situations. If we're going to scriptures, we see kind of a different point that I cannot see that it's gonna be ever really peace until Yeshua is coming. But you definitely see how things are changing in the Middle of East, and I think that what's happening now is so crucial, and the next few weeks or months are going to be really, really important for the long terms. And so we're still in Lebanon, some units, but most of IDF went out. Right now, currently, we have the ceasefire in Gaza. That in this ceasefire, they're releasing hostages, and we're releasing, heavy terrorists that have been sitting for many years and have a lot of blood on their hands. That it's a different subject that we're gonna touch as well in a moment. But we really see how the army is preparing for every situation. Like in fact, right now there is so much units of tanks and everything is around of the border, getting ready in case of this ceasefire will collapse, and it feels that it can happen.
Yeah.
So far, we don't have any agreements for the second stage of the ceasefire and releasing. This weekend is gonna be really sensitive and hard weekend because they're gonna release tomorrow 4 bodies of hostages. Hamas actually announced that 3 of them, it's the Bibas family.
The kids.
So yeah, the kids and the wife. The dad is home. He's been released 18 days ago. And then Saturday we're gonna have another 6 guys. 2 of them are being captivity in the last 10 years. So it's they've been there for a long time. So it's gonna be really sensitive. And after this part, next week they're supposed to release a few more bodies as well. So we're coming to closer and closer stage that it's really kind of important to see where it will go.
But then Egypt somehow coming to the equation.
Well, honestly, there's so much that is happening that it's really hard to say. But we're really seeing that it's not yet over. Even though it feels it's over, it's not yet over.
Oh, yeah.
There is so much things are happening. So let's talk about last month, since every week we had hostages being released. How do you feel about it? How it's affecting you?
Yeah, let me be a cool guest and let you answer you first.
Me, yeah. I'm happy. I have to say that I am happy to see civilians coming back, especially see soldiers, girls that coming back. You know, it's first time in the history of Israel that we had females in captivity. It never happened to us in the past. So, and we were always afraid of that. Always like really, really afraid of that. And to see the girls that been released, it's the same girls that been same base as David was, one of our youth, you know, and I was really happy to see that. And you know, like every week you see so much hope and people are happy, and like, you know, it's really exciting. It's good. In the other hand, I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of doubts as well. I'm happy that they're home. They're supposed to be home. The government need to do everything to bring them home. You know, it was their fault as well. So at least, you know, we expecting them kind of to, you know, to do something with that. But in the other hand, you know, it's really complicated, because I'm thinking about families that, you know, their husbands or wife lost their lives in the time of the war as well. And I think that this is kind of what we need to talk about it now, and kind of to see the two sides of it. So what do you think?
Yeah, I will agree about a complicated situation. It is a very complicated situation. As someone who fought in the front line, at the beginning, we've been participating in an operation with bringing the head of a soldier that was killed 7th of October. He was beheaded, and they tried to sell his head. After 2 months, we bring it back home to Israel. There is nothing that I felt like I gave birth. I don't know how to explain that. Like, I felt so good, like it's my child, although, you know, he's not alive. Yeah. But his dad was thanking us very much, because, you know, for us it's important to bury the whole body. Yeah. Releasing back the hostages, it's the main goal. That's why we're fighting. We're not fighting from anything else.
Of course.
But the thing is that it's hard to me to see the hostages released, because we start with a fight. We start with me putting my life to danger. Yeah. And then we say, oh, it's not working, so let's start talking. Although in all the movies, if you will watch the, you know, when they're robbing a bank or something, first they start talking, and then they start acting. Yeah. So it feels like useless. Why we start acting if we're not finishing it? And now they said, okay, you risking your life was good, but it's not good enough, so let me start talking. So that's why it's hard for me when I see the hostages. On one hand, I'm really happy inside, and I'm forcing myself to be happy. On the other hand, I feel kind of weird because we did not help them. I feel like, okay, we did everything for them to come back, but we did not help them. I feel it on me because I was there to help them, you know? Yeah. And I couldn't. So it's hard. It's harder for me. And then thinking about the whole situation of them coming back, of us releasing, exchanging terrorists, it's just make me nuts, you know? It's so unfair. Yeah. It's like, if I'll compare it, try to imagine, guys, two neighbors with the fence between them, two bad neighbors. They're not friends. They never was friends. Let's forget about our history, okay? Just two neighbors. And then we've been fighting here and there. They rockets, we rockets, fighting. It's like never was fun. Yeah. But then one day, one neighbor just decided to cross the fence, take people from the homes, kids, adults, and like women, everyone, soldiers, civilians, everyone. And they take them back to their homes. And then they said, oh, I'm the victim. It's not working like that. Yeah. They're not victims.
Even though everyone is kind of saying that, oh, they're the victims. Yeah, you know,
but they're not victims.
Freedom fighters and on and on and on.
Since when someone who crossed to my building, to my home, he's the victim? If he coming back and he say, I'm sorry. I mean, why? That's why it's hard for me to understand. They're not victims. Why we should get back the terrorists if they're not victims? Yeah. That's why the situation is complicated. because on one hand we're very happy to see them back home. On the other hand, we don't have this kind of safe home that can prove you that it will not happen again.
Yeah.
You know, like, because we had the same story with, remember we used to go with Gilad Shalit.
Gilad Shalit, yeah.
We exchanged one soldier for
1,100 terrorists.
1,100 terrorists from one soldier. We really appreciate life, but on the other hand, like if then it happened with one soldier, here it happened again with 60 people that will get released. So it's hard. It's very hard, and it's not bringing any hope. And as a soldier, again, I feel the failure again on my shoulders.
Of course.
I feel that I, like, you know, I've been useless. My life been risked. I could have died, and for what? For me to do nothing. So that's the hardest part for me.
Well, you know, I can say that maybe people will not agree with me, but we kind of lost already the war from the beginning when we had so many hostages being taken to Gaza. So we cannot really write the conditions, and especially when it comes that, you know, we're doing, you know, we're trying to solve and do things with terrorists.
Yeah.
You know, it's
so
just
silly.
Isn't
that silly?
It's silly, and that's why it's so complicated as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's for so many years, people have been saying in Israel that we should put death punishment for terrorism, because, you know, we know that there's few places in the world that is working. And they're saying, you know, because if that happens, this situation will never happen, because they're seeing, and they're, you know, the Middle Eastern culture is really different than the Western culture, that people here are gonna take advantage of you, and they will see your weaknesses, and they're gonna use it, and that's what they're doing. So one of the main goals of 7 October was doing that as well, to take as more hostages as they can, to release all of the prisoners, you know, that are being many of them with so much blood on their hands, and it's working, and it's complicated, you know, and that's why Israel put goals in the war. One of the goals, the main goals, was of course to bring back the hostages, all the hostages, and the second one was to destroy Hamas. And here it's after a year and a half in the war that is going for 502 days. It's complicated. It's we felt, and, you know, I think it's really hard to fight with these kind of people. When I mean people, I mean this kind of terrorists that are working in this way, that it's like a guerrilla fight, you know. They're coming out from tunnels, shooting you, you know, going back to the tunnel. When Israel is facing with more challenging situation, like in strong armies,
look at Lebanon.
Look on Lebanon. Israel been doing their it's unbelievable.
To be written in
it's
the
unbelievable.
History books,
It is.
Bro. It's crazy.
Iran, Yemen. They've been striking Iran and Yemen. You know, who would thought that Israel will ever do such a thing?
And here in our backyard, we can't play.
Exactly. And here's the situation that destroying Hamas is hard, because Hamas is not people; it's ideology.
Yeah.
And that's the main problem, you know.
And it's a very strong and bad ideology. When people understand what stands behind Hamas, and they will see the spirit that stands behind Hamas, they'll understand what we're fighting. Because I've been inside of Gaza. I've been riding there in a tank, you know, been cowboying in Gaza. But when I saw the footages of the hostages released in one of the places, I recognized this place because I've been there. And it feels so not fair. Like I've been there, and all of a sudden they came back with these faces and all of that covered, like all the terrorists out. And my instant reaction is like, hey, why we're not just showing the rocket there? They're all outside. Let's kill them right now.
Because that's kind of the Middle Eastern way of thinking. You know, they will be just like, they'll see a situation, they will see that they can have like any advantage, and they will do that.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to add, of course, the way they released the hostages.
Oh, that was terrible.
It's like they continue to play with us, and, you know, I don't know. Poor government. We have a really strong people there. I hope like we really pray for them, when we need to continue to pray for them, and we need you guys to pray for our government, because it's very hard, very challenging. And if we feel that, I bet they feel the same and even more, because they see the situation way more open.
Yeah.
So they really need Jesus and they really need God to make these decisions. But yeah, that's why we need you guys. We need people with other PTSD to come and help our PTSD, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, I want to finish with something that we did as a church, and especially you did that. You led it. Tell us a bit about the project that you did for the soldiers. Because I think it's important as well to hear that even in the midst of all that, you know, God is working.
Yeah. Wonderful project. Like a wonderful project. I've been in the States, and I've been driving with my father-in-law, and we started talking about military and stuff, and he said, hey, do you guys have like appreciation dinner for soldiers? And I'm like,
good idea.
What's that? And he explained in the American way, you know, when you're landing in America, first is the soldiers, active soldiers. Each time in America, I want to say, yeah, I'm an Israeli soldier. But they really appreciate the soldiers, and it's very important. And all of a sudden, I've seen the need here, especially in the church. There's many soldiers.
Yeah.
But first, I saw the need in the church, in our soldiers, you know, our chickens.
Yeah.
To take care of our chickens. Well, not chickens, our fighters, our bulls, I would say. And then I understood that we need to do something like that. And it came this idea to do an appreciation dinner in Israel, in our church, in Beit Hallel, for the soldiers, those who are in regular soldiers and reserves, and active and inactive reserves. So what I wanted to do is first to show the soldiers, because not all the soldiers seen the work that as a church we've been doing. Why? Because they've been in a war. They've been in a work by themselves.
Yeah.
But we show the soldiers the work that we've been doing, the amount of stuff that we help with. If it starts from small snacks, foods, water, toilet paper, and it's come back to helmets, vests, and like the heavy stuff. Uniforms, the amount of money that we donated because of you guys.
Yeah.
And the soldiers was really uplifted after that. Then I wanted also to hear the soldiers, because I want, ideally, and we'll work on that, I want the church to see a video or a book or something. I'm saying that to the camera guy also at the back. The stories that happen in this military, because why the church was praying and lots of stories happened.
Yeah.
And when we shared stories, some fun stories, how my friend got in a situation. We shared some fun other stories, how people forget stuff and stuff like that. Or we shared stories that people needed to go out from the room, how they lost their friends because it come too emotional and tears just coming out.
Yeah, that was really... it was...
Unexpectable,
and, you know, I almost cried by myself because I felt the pain. And I mean... we have so much pain inside of us. Yeah. And I did not expect, because it was funny because everyone kind of said funny you know,
stories,
stuff.
Yeah.
But then when it came to a serious something that this guy like really wanted kind of to point, that was hard, man.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that and tears are coming, you know, because it's... Yeah. Because he's been going through really hard situations, and you know exactly what he was going through.
Yeah, we all been going through a lot of hard situations. That's why I wanted this appreciation dinner. So we grabbed some food. Why? Because food is always good.
Yeah.
And then we saw how God was working. Like, even though with this heaviness, when he shared that, like just the Holy Spirit was there, and it was really like easy, and we continued and we prayed and we give small Bibles that we can fit in the pocket for the vest for the vest. So it's very cool, it's very needed. It is. We really want to go on with that and do not only appreciation dinner for soldiers but also for the families, because the families have been going also through a lot. And I mean, when me and you fighting an enemy that we see, although we not always see that, but the enemy that we see, the families was fighting nothing that they saw.
Yeah.
Like they was fighting without us, and it's also a whole other story.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for helping and participating in that, and of course praying for our people, for our soldiers.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And we're going to talk about more interesting things in the next episode. So follow up.
Yes, blessings, love and appreciation.